We have a big stadium patch coming into the game today, May 1st, 2025. The baby D.Va build is getting nerfed. The Nano Cola Nitrous Epic Survival Hero item, the health is going to be reduced from 50 to 25. They're reducing the max life increase from 25% to 5%, and they're reducing the nano boost duration from 8 seconds to 4 seconds. For the Busan Blaster Epic Ability Hero item, it also no longer grants ultimate charge. The devs comment that Nano Cola Nitrous has been making it too difficult for opponents to take down D.Va while out of her mech, and allowing her to get her mech back consistently. These changes will help add some risk of being out of her mech back into her kit. Busan Blaster was also allowing D.Va to get her mech back instantly, which was not the intention of this item's design. For Orisa's power Restortify, they're reducing the healing of the max life every second from 10% to 5%. For her rare survival hero item, Solar Regenergy, they're reducing the armor restoration from 5% to 3% of the max life. The devs comment that we've observed many scenarios where it feels like Orisa can become invincible. In combination with some of her other powers and items, we felt that Restorify was healing too much. Solar Regenergy was also too efficient for its cost, so we're tuning it back to be more in line with items of similar cost. For Rein, they're just reducing the amount of stadium cash he gains in general from the damage and healing he does by 13.64%. The devs comment that Reinhardt had a higher rate of earning cash from damage and healing due to his range. However, Reinhardt has been overperforming and making a bit too much cash, so we're pulling this back a bit. Alright, Zarya's getting some changes to her powers. First, Life Lift. The particle barrier health scaling has been reduced from 100% to 50% of her bonus max life. And the other power, Here to Spot You, they're actually buffing it, where they're increasing the healing of it from 15% to 20% of your max life over 3 seconds. The devs comment that Life Lift has been proven to be the most consistently effective power for Zarya. We are reducing the scaling on it to try to make it feel less like a must pick in all styles of Zarya builds. We're also adding a bit more healing in hopes of making Here to Spot You a bit more reliable source of power to choose from. Okay, May's big snowball build is getting an interesting change here. The colder power, they're reducing the knockback frequency rate by 60%. But they will be increasing how far enemies are knocked back each time it does connect. They're also increasing the damage dealt per knockback to 20 from 10. The devs comment that while rolling around in ice balls has been very fun, we feel that the power currently feels too consistent at disrupting players for a long duration ability. We're hoping that with these changes, it will still feel powerful, but reduce its ability to carry an enemy around for its entire duration. Reaper getting an overall nerf with the amount of stadium cash he gains from damage and healing by 10%. The devs comment that Reaper originally had a higher rate of earning cash from damage and healing, since on average, he has more difficulty dealing consistent damage due to his range. However, Reaper has been overperforming and making too much cash, so we're pulling this back a little bit. For Soldier 76, he's getting an overall nerf. First and foremost, the amount of stadium cash he gains from damage and healing is reduced by 12.5%. Now for his powers, Rocket Visor, a lot of people have been complaining about this one. The duration of the free visor is reduced from 0.75 seconds to 0.5 seconds. His other power, Biotic Bullseye, they're actually increasing the ammo restoration from 5% to 10% per critical hit or per headshot. The devs comment that Soldier 76 has been consistently making too much money from damage and healing, allowing him to consistently snowball his lead. We love that players have been enjoying using Rocket Visor. It's been great to see some players pick up Soldier 76 who may not have played him much in the past. But that said, we have always intended for the build centered around Rocket Visor to be a strong, accessible build, but not necessarily the build with the highest practical performance ceiling. We've seen that it's overperforming and can feel frustrating to play against, so we're hoping to reduce a bit of power with this change, but we will continue to keep a tactical eye on this build as we move forward with more balance updates. Okay, on to the supports. Kiriko, also getting a reduction in the amount of stadium cash he gains from damage and healing by 16.67%. The devs comment that Kiriko was consistently earning a bit too much cash from damage and healing. No other notes. I assume that's because she was overperforming as well. Okay, a lot of notes for Juno. They're actually increasing the amount of stadium cash she gains from damage and healing. For her Cosmic Coolant power, the cooldown per target hit is going to be nerfed from 1 second to 0.5 seconds for her torpedoes, so this build is getting slightly nerfed here. For her Pulsar Destroyer's epic ability hero item, they're removing the 15% ability power on it, but they're actually adding 10% ability lifesteal. And then for her Solar Shielding, the epic ability item as well, that ability power is going to be nerfed from 25% to 15%. A lengthy dev comment here. We know Juno has been very popular in Stadium, but we're addressing some of the most oppressive aspects of those builds in this update. We have found that on average, Juno is actually earning less cash from damage and healing than other heroes, especially in the early rounds. We're actually increasing this to help balance out with some of the Pulsar Torpedo build nerfs, as well as to help out the other Juno builds that are underperforming. Pulsar Torpedo enthusiasts have been everywhere you look in Stadium, and sometimes it feels like there's always a Pulsar Torpedo chasing you. We're reducing the cooldown of Cosmic Coolant per hit to reduce some of her ability pacing. We actually felt that Pulsar Destroyers had too much vertical power for damage focused on Pulsar Torpedo builds, and we've replaced the ability power on it with ability lifesteal to kind of retain that aggressive playstyle. Solar Shielding was also providing too much ability power combined with its effect at its current cost, so that's why they nerfed that one as well. Alright, Lucio getting a buff to the amount of Stadium cash he gains from damage and healing by 10%. For his powers, a nerf to Crowd Pleaser, the healing of Crossfade is going to be reduced from 200% to 150%. For his Megaphone power, they're actually reducing the Amp It Up duration from 20% to 15%. For his power signature shift, they're actually increasing the projectile size from 20% to 80%. And for his epic weapon hero item, B-Side Bop, they're increasing the health from 25 to 50. All right, the devs have notes on each of these. On average, Lucio was gaining less than average cash from damage and healing, so we're giving him a small bump here. And now in combination with Amp It Up and Crowd Pleaser powers, that was actually allowing for too much burst healing that was outside of acceptable output ranges. The Amp It Up heal bot builds have been a little too consistent, so we're actually shaving a little off from the Megaphone power. The weapon power Lucio builds have actually been overshadowed by the ability power healing and Soundwave builds, so we're actually adding more consistency to Signature Shift to make it a bit more reliable and an accessible option. The B-Side Bop item had a very low pick rate, so we're adding more health to make it a more attractive option and add power to less popular Lucio builds.